Bow Hunters, what is up? Welcome back to another episode. Thank you for your patience over the last few weeks as the show has been slightly on stand hold. I've gone and recorded not a whole heap, but some more episodes for you guys, which means that we are coming back and we are releasing a new part of the show, which is your Tidbit Tuesdays, a short little episode that will come to you on Tuesdays. Hopefully every Tuesday. I'm not sure quite yet. We'll get to that eventually. But little tips from people I interviewed, little tips for myself based on what I've come across so far with bow hunting. Sometimes they'll be a minute, sometimes they'll be 10 minutes long. So hopefully you guys enjoy that segment of the show when it comes out next Tuesday. Look out for that one in your podcast inboxes. That will come to you soon. For today, we have Darcy Galliano with us. It's a super cool little podcast. This guy's really humble. He's a 20-year-old, and he's already traveled most of Australia as well as to Africa with his bow hunting adventures, which I think is really, really cool and really inspirational. So you guys should get a lot out of this one. I hope you really enjoy it. Thanks heaps for joining us again. And if you do like the show, please do me a solid and share it around with your friends, guys. Getting more views on the show definitely helps it out. So much love from my end. Hope you guys are well and hope you're getting out bow hunting. Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bow Hunter. I'm your host, Matty, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands. Searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bow hunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bow hunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bow hunting. Bow Hunters, welcome back to another episode. Pretty pumped I've got Darcy Galliano with me. Darcy, welcome, mate.
How you going?
Good, man. So, I mean, we were just talking previously, but you're a 20-year-old bow hunter who's been into the sport for how long?
I've been shooting a bow since 2008, but probably the last 5 years I kind of taken off a bit, mainly because you just, at that age, you're old enough to kind of take off and do it yourself, I guess.
Definitely, dude. So let's talk about like how did you get into it?
Well, funny enough, I was a kid. We just moved to town, and a neighbour next to me had a compound bow, and that kind of kick-started it all.
Yeah.
From there, and then joined an archery club, and bloke there kind of took me underneath his wing, and we travel a lot together, and we're quite close, and yeah, pretty much family now, so it all worked out all right.
That's incredible, man. So he's kind of become your mentor in the sport, I guess.
Pretty much that, and then going out of my way a bit, and I've met quite a few people. They've helped me out quite a lot, and yeah, it's just like bow hunting's probably a sport full of some terrific people, and if you get yourself out there, all of them take you underneath your wing, fortunately.
Yeah, dude, I've definitely found that. It's a very open community and very, very willing to help, which is sick. I guess something that kind of drew me to you was, I mean, you've written multiple articles for the magazines. I then also was following you on Instagram and seeing some of your pictures. Like you're a good photographer. You enjoy obviously getting out and chasing it, but obviously you've also done the trip to Africa, which is all over your page as well.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. Like, I mean, obviously, like I said, you're 20 years young, so you're pretty fresh to it all. 5 years in bow hunting. What was the whole thought and process to doing that?
Well, I've always run around with a bow since I was quite young and stuff, but really I was just never old enough to kind of do it. I live on a small property with me parents because I'm a tired ass, but yeah, just I don't know. Just as a kid, I was always in trouble at school and get suspension in the library, so I started to read a lot of books about the different animals, and just animals in Africa kind of drew me. So that was kind of the thing, and talking to a few blokes who've been over there kind of kick-started it from a young age. And then, yeah, just when I turned 18, I thought, bugger it, we'll just do it. So me and my close mate Kimball went over there and hunted for, I think, 10 days it might have been.
That's insane.
But, yeah, so it was a bit of a crazy experience in some terms, but, yeah, it was different to what I'm used to anyway.
Yeah, definitely, dude. So, I mean, you were saying before the show that you pretty much just started saving your pennies, putting away $50 a week, just trying to save up for it so you can make it happen.
Pretty much. So I left school just after I turned 15 and started full-time working, and just the passion for bow hunting, what I had, is the thing that really got me through everything, and just saving me money constantly is kind of like the thing that helps. And if you've got a passion in life, you just need to chase it. And fortunately for me, that's what I've done.
Definitely, man. I think some people can go many different directions. It's a pretty good addiction to get into.
Yeah. So, it's just the thing that's helped me through a lot of hardship in life too. So it's always good to kind of have that passion. And, it's taken me a long way so far, and hopefully it'll take me a lot further.
Definitely, dude. I think the mental side that it does for many people is ridiculously good. And I think that's definitely why I've become such an advocate for it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when it comes to hunting those deer in particular. They're the ones that chase you around and give you the run around, and that's what really they make you want to pull your hair out, kick and scream like a little girl. But yet, when you finally get one, it's just so rewarding. That's kind of the thing that I love more than anything, is chasing the deer. But
yeah. What is your bread and butter? Like, what has been the main kind of thing you've hunted?
Chasing billies so I'm in like somewhat northern New South Wales, chasing the billies around in the hills, and then spend a lot of time chasing fallows. But I've shot a few of them, but I'm real picky. It's got to be like a certain animal kind of now. So mainly billy goats and rabbits, funny enough. But chasing the billies through the hills has kind of been like the bread and butter, and the thing that draws me back. Chasing them through the rut and all that sort of stuff's the thing that really gets me going, I think. But
you definitely you can tell that you're, like you said, picky on your animals, because the animals that you're starting to put up on your pictures in particular, you're getting some really quite like good trophies. It's not just a billy that you've come across anymore.
Yeah, so I'm kind of a bit different. So when I was younger, as I think most young blokes are when they're getting into the sport, they just kind of want to shoot everything, I guess. And I kind of done that for a while, but I don't know. I'm a bit different. I like to chase the animals, and I love the experience more than the trophy itself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing that I enjoy. And then still for me, it's taking a life. So it has to be a certain animal for me to take a life, really.
Yeah, man, that's refreshing. That's good to hear.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I do now. And even on my previous buff hunt, it's kind of the experience was so amazing. I was happy enough to just take a cow. I said that to me mate Russ. I'm like, I'm happy enough to just take a cow. And then 2 hours later, I ended up with the bull that I got.
Yeah.
And I literally sat down and next to the bull, and I cried like a little girl.
Yeah.
But hunting affects people in all different ways. And
Mate,
I'm not too bloke to admit I cried.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Nothing wrong with having a cry. Nothing wrong with showing some emotion. It's good.
Yeah.
When it comes to that buff hunt as well, you actually got an award this year for that. Now, it was the youngest Australian to have taken a buff, I believe.
Yeah, Cape Buffalo over in Africa.
Yeah.
So, obviously there's a lot of restrictions and stuff over there for what you can use, and it's a minimum of 70 pounds. And obviously I don't think there's a lot of 18-year-olds who can draw that. But the other thing too, just a lot of people don't have the money for it, but I was lucky enough, I guess, and just enough of a tight ass to be able to do it.
There's luck, and there's, I don't know, you definitely made it happen. It wasn't necessarily just luck.
Yeah, it was. So I was meant to go for a cow buffalo hunt. And, when we were out tracking one morning, we come across a wounded buffalo, and anyone who's hunted Cape buffalo knows that they're probably the most dangerous ones, because they don't really give a shit. They'll have a crack at you for anything. And they were kind of a bit worried about it attacking the farm workers and stuff. And they said, you know what, just go for it. And lucky enough for me, we put in a stalk and got into 18 metres, and one shot above the heart took it out. He went 15 metres and piled up. But it was just a surreal moment, I think, and it's still now. I still don't really believe it all happened, and that happened in 2017. But it's just a crazy thing that happened, and very, very. I don't know how to put it in words, but just an awesome experience. Yeah,
dude, that's really cool. What else did you take when you were over there, when you went to Africa?
I took 2 Steenbok. No.
Which are the small ones, right?
A kudu, 2 impalas, a wildebeest. So I have to look in my room. Gemsbok, warthog, and I think that's all. Oh, and unfortunately a baboon.
Oh, wow.
But yeah.
Why, unfortunately?
Oh, I kind of feel bad for doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, just being up close to them and stuff, they just look so much like a person.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
they caused quite a lot of grief for him over there. And me mate over there, Dempsey, who was my guide, just said, shoot it. And I ended up taking it. But, yeah, I don't really tell too many people about it. But
He just broadcasted it, so.
do it in the entertainment. You got to own up to what you've done. But,
Yeah.
they're definitely an awesome animal. And, yeah, definitely a bit nerve-wracking. But, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so kind of a big journey over there. But, yeah, it's not really the hardest hunting you can do in the world and that sort of stuff. But
Were you in blinds all day, or what was the deal for it?
a bit of mix. I shot 2 Steenbok spot and stalk and me buffalo spot and stalk,
Mm-hmm.
but then the rest ground blinds.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of looking back, I kind of frown upon it a little bit, not so much hunting out of blinds, but it's me and my mate call it bush bingo. You know you're going to get a shot, but you just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, for me, it feels like you're just going over killing stuff. You're not actually having that journey and that ups and downs of what I'm used to in Australia, especially hunting deer.
Yeah, definitely.
But each to their own. It was an awesome experience, and I've got some close mates over there. I wouldn't change it for the world, but yeah, it's just kind of a bit different to what I like to do.
Yeah, I'm always, I don't know. I don't know how I would go whitetail hunting or anything like that. You see guys sitting up in their tree stands for 13 hours at a time, and that just, I don't know, it just doesn't really interest me much at all. Like, I think it'd do my head in. I don't know if that's maybe a sign of patience or something that I need to work on, but it just, I would definitely prefer to get out and actually get after the animals, try track them to some extent, or find them in their natural habitat a little bit differently.
Yeah, definitely. Like the hog deer I took last year, they're a cunning, naive. They're just, I don't know how to put it in words. They're just a clever little creep. The first hunted one, I couldn't find anywhere to hide really, so I hid in a wombat hole.
Wow.
I stayed in there for about 8 hours over an open paddock because it's just so thick you can't really stalk them, unfortunately. But yeah, I waited in a wombat hole for 8 hours. I had enough room I could kind of crouch up a little bit, draw my bow, then pop up.
Yeah.
And then I waited in a tree the next day for about 10 hours, didn't see a single thing. Then the following day I went over to another block over on an island, what my mate's owned, fortunately, and I was hunting with Benny Chambers from WA at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He's a cracker good bloke too, and I think I was in the tree that day for 10 hours.
Jesus.
I had a doe and a fawn walk directly underneath the tree I was, and I was shaking like no tomorrow, really. But I wasn't too sure what time of year they dropped, and I just didn't want to take the risk of the fawn not being able to support itself, so I let them walk. And then luckily right at last light, the hog deer stag walked out at 24 metres, and luckily I got him. But I unfortunately jumped the string a little bit and ducked and weaved, and I hit him back. So I hit him where the heart would have been, but about 3 inches back because he leapt forward.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah, we left him overnight, and then crawling on hands and knees, luckily we found him, and as again, I cried and went up and hugged all my mates when we found him, just relieved. And
yeah. So he passed away that night. You didn't have to have another shot. Yeah.
And all that, and we just left him overnight. He got a bit stiff, and yeah, we found him, and yeah, just overwhelming emotions, and yeah, just the way they do hog deer hunts in Victoria is just an experience of a lifetime, really.
Yeah, that's insane, dude. I mean, like, I'm just actually looking at that photo. They're quite a small creature, right? Like, they're like a big dog.
They're tiny, so I wouldn't know how big they stand at the shoulders, but they're not a real big animal at all. Probably like the size of a small nanny goat, really.
Yeah, wow.
And they're real quick. As soon as they get smell of a human, they turn nocturnal.
Uh-huh.
They're just a real hard animal to hunt in general, let alone with a bow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane. So Are you much of an eater of the meat that you hunt, or are you just a hunter? What's your perspective on it?
I take all the meat, mostly all the meat. Either I'll shoot younger animals for food, really, or even if I shoot an old billy goat or whatever, or an old mature deer, I'll still take the meat for dog meat. So really, even now, I don't really shoot much younger stuff at all, really, and even the older stuff, I'll take all the meat because either way, it's going to get utilised.
Yeah.
And like I was saying to you, being a butcher by trade, it kind of helps. So
that's what I was about to get into.
yeah.
Obviously, a lot of the butchers I talk to, I'll ask them about different game meats and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, I've got the luxury of not having to have that." In a sense, like that's the way that they put it. That the beef that they're getting in is a lot tastier than the deer meat, so they wouldn't really touch it. Or sometimes talking about the wild boars, or talking about like I've got a pretty good butchers close by me that has some pretty extravagant stuff in there. Like they've got crocodile and emu and snake and wild boar and venison. They've got some chiddle deer. So yeah, it's quite extravagant. And I kind of asked the butcher about it, and he's just like, "Don't touch it. I never touch it." So I mean, is it kind of that same thought for you, based on the fact that you I guess open to good quality meats all the time?
Not really. I'm kind of a bit different. It's kind of like I've taken this animal, so I'm going to have to utilise it. And like even that hog deer, even though I gut shot it pretty much and it had tainted meat, I still ate all of it. And funny enough, I was flying with Virgin Airlines at the time.
Yeah.
And the bloke who owns it's a vegan or whatever they are, and he kind of frowns upon any honey. You're not allowed trophies on the plane or anything. And I was going through the bag checking at Melbourne Airport, and my back carry-on was filled with about 10 kilos worth of frozen meat. And they pulled me aside and said, "What's in the bag?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know, just really look at it." And then when she turned around to have a look in the bag, I kind of grabbed my bag and done a runner to the other end of the terminal. So kind of like that, just even when I went up north and all that, all the meat I bring back, even though it's a bit of a pain in the ass, but yeah, I really enjoy the meat, really, because I know where it comes from more than anything. And
yeah, definitely.
It's kind of, I reckon it's underrated. It's fantastic.
Oh, definitely.
About the way you prepare it, really.
Do you have set up at home for good butchering things? Like, for instance, do you have a mincer at home? Do you have a bandsaw or anything like that, or you don't need to because you got it at work?
No, I've got all the gear at home. I wouldn't say it's a good operation. I'd say it's a donkey one. But yeah, I've got enough to get by. I can make I've made sausages, mince. I've got all the gear at home to do it all, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely opens up the game a lot more. Like, I don't know, I've found such a difference in the taste of the meat. If you mince it, like it changes the flavour completely. In particular, if you've got a pretty gamey piece of meat, you can put it through the mincer and it will change that texture and change the actual end taste a fair bit. I know. I think it definitely makes it taste better, which I like, and I enjoyed making sausages. I think that's quite a fun process. It's a lengthy process, but it's definitely a fun process. When it comes to actually processing an animal, I think this is something that could be really cool to talk about because it's something that we haven't talked about yet. But I've actually had a lot of listeners kind of asking about it. Let's maybe go through like start to finish. What happens? We've got an animal down, going through the skinning process. What's your favorite process or your favorite steps for skinning an animal?
So usually if it's an animal where I'm not going to shoulder mount it, obviously the first thing I do is gut it. That's the first thing, especially in Australia. It just bloats and gets fairly cooked fairly quickly, really. Personally, I put the incision up pretty much straight up the belly.
Starting low and moving the way up, or do you start high? Yep.
Well, first of all, I start ring around the anus, so you cut around the hole. Then fully, I like to go a bit deeper and just fully open up all the way around the pelvis. I mean, if you're new at it, practice is the best thing. Yeah. So just keep cutting around there. Even if you cut the tuber, I think it's not going to be that big of a deal. And it's just fat anyway in there. Yeah. Then I go, if it's a male, I'll cut the testicles off and run straight through the middle, up the side of the penis and stop right at the base of the brisket there. Yep. Where you feel the bone start. And then obviously with one hand, I kind of spread two fingers apart, kind of. So usually my left hand, since I'm right right-handed, I'll split 2 fingers apart, put it up underneath the skin.
Yeah.
And with my other hand, just use a tip of my knife and slowly and gently pull it up so you're not puncturing anything.
Yeah.
Then you open it up. I kind of put my hands in and then cut around the diaphragm as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to cut around that to pull your red offal out, so your heart and lungs.
Yeah.
So do that. Then I'll reach all the way up and cut the, what's it called? The actual...
esophagus.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know why I can't do that.
Yeah.
And then pretty much grab onto that and you can pull it all out.
Yeah.
And down towards the end, you just pull out the shit tube pretty much and right to go. Then with that, I'll usually turn it on the side, drain all the blood out because that's the first thing that goes rancid pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, if I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'll skin it out on the ground, or at home, I'm lucky enough I can usually carry it a couple k's on my shoulder back to home.
Yeah.
And hang it up and skin it. But I cut down the inside of the back legs, down the middle. There's kind of like where your real fine hair goes to like your longer, thicker hair.
Yeah.
Just put me lines down there, then obviously follow the cut I've already made, then go down the inside of the arm, and there's the kind of inside of the elbow, I guess you'd call it. You can see this long kind of like flat skin stand up when you pull your leg back.
Yeah.
Put the line down through there and then run it up through the throat. Usually I'll take the face off if I'm tanning it myself, and I'll split the lips in half, just have it so it's all flat. And then obviously I do a little bit of cutting, but most of it I push my fist through if I can, because you're not going to kind of leave much meat on it, and you're not going to put holes in it if you're fisting it out.
Let's talk about that a little bit, just slowing it down. Going back to splitting the lips, that's something I've seen done before. I've never tried it myself, but so you're talking about essentially pulling the whole skin of the face off, getting the lips, and you're literally cutting around the inside of the lips because it's full of fat. So you need to get that out if you're going to be tanning the hide.
So it's pretty much, how do you explain it? You're pretty much just going to cut it thinly, kind of, pretty much just like you're unfolding it, really.
Yeah.
So like that, you're going to slowly cut it so it turns around like that and comes flat.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, really. That's probably the easiest way I can describe it. But, yeah, that's why with that I usually use a scalpel. So a Havlon comes in handy with that sort of little stuff. And, yeah, that's probably the best thing for it, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
The best way you can try it and do it is just if you're shooting anything, just even if you just cut the head off, just take the face cape off and just skin it out. Just practice makes perfect.
Now, would you do that if you weren't, like, are you only doing that for an animal you're doing a shoulder mount for, or are you doing it for...
If I do tanning myself for a flat skin.
Yeah.
A lot of the time I'll take the face off it as well.
Yeah.
I'll do it for that, or if I'm just wanting the meat, really, I'll just, for lack of better words, butcher the crap out of it.
Yeah.
So, really, on the skin, I'll leave a fair bit of the sinewy shit and all that. Really, a lot of the smaller stuff you leave on your skin when you're skinning it out, you're not really going to need for your carcass, really.
Yeah.
That's just the way I think of it. So, usually I'll try and do it as, well, I'm all right with it. I just do it as quick as I can because really being out in the heat and stuff like that, I want to get it cooled as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Or if a lot of the time where I hunt goats, you're kind of 4, 5, 6 Ks in the hills, and I just carry one of them exo packs. So I'll bone the meat out, or I'll cut off the front quarters, hind quarters and all that, chuck it in game bags and put it between me frame and me pack and carry it down to an esky.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll leave the skin on. That helps with the meat not drying out and kind of stops insects getting on it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done it a few times. I'll forget game bags and stuff like that. So I'll leave the skin on, and that kind of helps protect it a little bit. Because it's always a pain flicking dirt and all that sort of crap off it when you're mincing it especially. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So essentially, when you're going through the hide, you're going a Y on the. It's like you're hanging it up, back legs. You're doing a Y down, meeting through the gut cut that you've already done, and then you're doing the same thing up on the upper legs, a Y up into the arms, up into the elbows.
If you pull the legs out, you can kind of see a distinct line, and when you pull out in that little socket, well, I don't know what you'd call it, just in that little gap there, you can kind of see a little bit of line stand up, kind of like a ridge.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
it straight through there. And then obviously when I'm doing flat skin, just continue that line straight up and through the throat there, and either pull the face off as one, or I'll cut straight up through the lip like so, and have it so there's like a lip either side if you're laying it flat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so with the flat skin, do you have to do anything with the ears when you're tanning the hide?
Yeah, so still you've got to try and flip them inside out.
Uh-huh.
So I use ear pliers occasionally.
Yep.
Pretty much just I cut around the base of it until you find the cartilage. With a fox, I just use a spoon.
Yep.
And you push the spoon up between the cartilage and the hair and do it that way pretty much. But it's just take your time with it. And as I said before, practice makes perfect, and really just keep practicing until you get it. But
I saw a demo where they used like a paint tin opener. That was what they used, and it worked a treat, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you just little blunt object, just push it up inside and keep pushing. Just be very gentle, because when you get to the end of that ear, it splits quite easily, unfortunately.
Yeah, really soft skin.
Yeah, so it just depends what animal it is. When I was up north, a bloke I was hunting with done his buffalo, and it took him about half an hour each one. He had to cut it all with a knife painstakingly. Ear pliers wouldn't work on it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then are you like when you go tan it, you have to dry out the skin? Like, are you salting it and leaving it for a while first?
I usually salt them for about a week or so.
Yeah.
So first, you got to cover everything with salt. You got to draw that moisture out. That's probably the most important thing.
And probably more salt than you think, hey?
Yeah. So even at the edges, if you think you're covered, a lot of the time it's just like a little lip that's rolled over, and that'll go off. So just push salt in. I'll leave it for about a day. Sometimes I'm a bit slack when it comes to it, but then pull all the salt off and re-salt it.
Yeah.
And
how do you pull it off? What are you doing to do that? Washing it, or are you just scraping it?
I just usually unroll it and then just lift it up, take all the salt off, and then just put more salt on it.
Yeah, okay.
So in butcher terms, the more moisture there is, the more bacterial growth there is, and the more bacteria it is to go off, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the main thing. You need to draw the moisture out of it first off, and then you got to take all your membrane or your fat. So before you put salt on, and get rid of all your fat or your meat, because the salt won't penetrate through it.
I've seen some people, they'll grab like a rock or something, and just, it'll be like a day later after they've salted it, grab a rock, and they'll just do like almost like they're just sanding the skin. And that helps to remove all the fat quite easily. You can also do it, I think, just with your hand, but obviously you get a fair bit of exfoliation or a fair bit of a rub on that hand when you're doing it. So, yeah, they grab a rock and just get rid of all the fat.
Yep.
It's quite interesting. And so you're then boosting the salt up and then leaving it for another few days?
Yeah, usually leave it for a few days, and then you got to flesh it. So you just get like a little fleshing tool, they're called, from most gun shops or whatever, and get all that little membrane off the inside of the skin and all that. You can kind of feel it, and then when you get a good run of it, you can pull a lot of it down at once, and then you chuck it into your tanning solution. I just buy the pre-mixed stuff and then mix it with salt and water. Leave it. The only way I know how to tell if it's tanned, you put a small nick in the actual skin itself.
Okay.
And you can kind of see, so my pickle's blue, and you can look down and you can see the actual contrast of the blue going to the base of the actual skin through the hair. Yeah, and that's how when to pull it out, and then you put in sort of fat, kind of looks like wood glue. Mix that into the skin, that keeps it moisturised and stuff. Then spread it out. I nail it to a bit of plywood. Yep. That worked enough for me. And then to thin it down afterwards, I just get a little hand sander or a little disc sander or something like that, and thin the hide down that way. And that's just the way I do it. Everyone does it different, but yeah.
So when you, because I've never actually seen this part done or never done it myself, are you just painting it on, or are you actually dumping the whole thing into like a bucket?
What's that? Tanning it?
Yeah, when you're tanning it.
So I've got like a big, sort of like a 44-gallon drum full of tanning solution. You put it in there, and then you need to make sure it's all submerged, and then
like fur and all.
Yeah, everything. Yep. And then just every day or so, I'll open it up and make sure everything's covered again, move it around a little bit so it gets through there. So it just has to be submerged in the liquid, really.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's
And then you drying it in any process along the way? Like, do you say that when you said that you'll nail it to the ply to dry it. So it's only once the blue has gone all the way through the skin that you'll then nail it on.
Yeah, so you just need to make sure, and if anything, if you're unsure, just leave it a bit longer, really.
Yeah.
And then, do that, and then afterwards you pull it out. You let it drain to get the pickle out of it, or I call it pickle, or the tanning solution out of it. And then you have to put pretty much like a woman puts moisturiser on the skin, you've got to put a certain moisturiser, what you can usually get with any tanning kit, into the actual skin itself.
Yeah.
Or else it's going to dry out and become real stiff and you can't work with it.
Yeah, okay.
I stake it out or nail it out onto a bit of plywood in the sort of way I want it to be presented.
Yeah.
Then I'll sand it down with a hand sander, a little palm sander.
What sort of grit are you using?
I wouldn't have a clue, eh?
Is it pretty rough or pretty fine?
I prefer a bit rougher stuff, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, with box and stuff, I usually sand it with finer stuff, but then I break the skin. So I've got like a little wooden stake with a kind of pointed edge to it, and you just roll it back and forth like that over it, and it kind of breaks the membrane.
Yeah.
Well, not the membrane, or breaks the skin, and it's kind of more flexible. So I'll sand it and then break it over that, and it's usually good enough for me. Not up to like taxidermy standards or anything, but job.
What are you mainly using your hides for when you do them?
Usually just rugs on the floor, or I've got a fox skins hanging up from me lockers in my bedroom when I keep my clothes in, because unfortunately I've got too many shoulder mounts to have a normal dresser. But
Oh, that's funny. So I mean, going back to them butchering the animal. So we've taken the hide off. Let's kind of talk about breaking down the animal bit by bit. I mean, the front legs are really easy to take off because there's no bone connecting them. You just cut straight underneath them. So lift them up and just keep cutting along the muscle seam, essentially. I have seen other people, when they'll butcher, for instance, is doing almost like the fourth or fifth rib down from the shoulder, and then taking that whole section as one and using it all as the shoulder roll instead. Is that something that you do, or you just like to take the front legs as is?
Personally, I just knock the front shoulders off. So just go through your little seam, what holds the shoulder on. Yeah. Because I butterfly, with goats especially, I butterfly the shoulder out and marinate it for about a week, and I cook it flat on the top of a barbecue and then cut it up and put it on bread. That's probably like the best way I like to do it.
Yeah, okay.
But shoulders are fairly easy. You kind of push your leg backwards. You can see that seam and you just cut it, really. It doesn't matter how rough you want to be till you do it, because you're just not going to be presented in a butcher shop, really.
Yeah.
But, the back legs are probably the trickiest thing. And even with the apprentices, what I've dealt with over the years, they kind of struggle with it.
Mm-hmm.
So really, if you skinned it, you can see like the ridge in between the two legs, what's your pelvis.
Yep.
So run your knife down one side of it. I really, with any knife, when you're boning, I only use about 1 inch or 2 inches of my actual knife, just the tip.
Yeah.
If you're putting it too deep, you're just going to destroy your meat, really, and it doesn't look the best and all that sort of stuff. And so run your knife along that ridge sort of, and you can feel it stop. When you feel it stop, you need to go up a little bit, and then you can kind of pop your joint. So pretty much the best way I can describe it is just go hard against bone. When you don't feel bone, turn back into it.
Yep.
So just work your tip in. You'll run it down. You'll feel your joint. Then you need there's a small little bit of cartilage that holds the ball to the actual socket. So cut that. And the most important thing to do is you need to put your knife tip in there and actually cut the
tendon,
bit of selvage or sinew that holds the ball socket to the actual ball.
Yeah.
So pop that, and then your leg almost falls off. It falls back, and then you can kind of see your tenderloin or your loin on the bottom side of your rump. So you see that running. So you got your hole where what do you call it? The fucking arsehole tube or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah.
So wearing, but
that's right.
In that part, then you run down there. You can kind of see where it joins. The whole pelvis bone joins up to the actual spine itself. So run down there and then just start working on the underside of that pelvis bone always push down. So you're going to use gravity as your friend, kind of put more pressure.
Push down the leg or on the knife?
Push down on the leg itself.
Yep.
With your other, you're going to be holding the shank end of it. So push down with that hand while you're cutting the underside of your pelvis bone.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll kind of get to where the tailbone is.
Yeah.
Pretty much mark down one side of your tailbone that you're cutting on that side of the leg, and usually it falls off. I don't really know how to explain it without showing you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never I don't know if I've seen it done that way. I definitely struggled with the back leg, like you're saying. It was definitely a harder thing, and I think I tried to with the goats in particular, tried to take a fair bit of the rump off, like tried to almost peel that all back from like where your back straps meet to it, almost cut all the way down around that, and then like you said before, butchered it, the back leg a bit, and I ended up getting the back leg off, but it definitely took a fair bit of effort, that's for sure.
Yeah, because the other thing too, if you're not so concerned about it, you just want to get like a leg off. If you get down along that bone and you pop that socket, you can kind of just cut it square, straight off. You're going to leave your rump on the bone, but if you're in like a rush to do it or something like that, it's just easy to do it that way. And then even if you just knock your pelvis bone off, so between every single joint on the spine, there's cartilage you can cut straight through.
Yeah.
But even if you just cut that pelvis bone off the actual spine itself after you take your back straps off, you can just pack that out whole and do it back at home where it's more comfortable, really.
Yeah.
Until I get in the hang of it. But, yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the ass to do. But, yeah, the back legs are a bit tricky. But, yeah, there's lots and lots of videos on YouTube that probably help people. So
yeah, I'm going to watch a few more of those. That's an interesting one. I want to learn that popping technique. That'd be cool. Sorry, go on. What was that?
Practice makes perfect, unfortunately, when it comes to that. But, just the more time you spend doing it, the more competent you become, the same as anything, really.
Yeah. And so you've knocked off your front legs, knocked off your back legs. What are you doing from there?
Usually I'll take the back straps off. So that's kind of easy. Just you see your spine in the middle, run your knife down along the spine. Mm-hmm. And then at the back end, you'll feel it stop abruptly. So that's where your pelvis bone is. Yeah. You kind of run your knife hard against the pelvis bone downwards. Then what I like to do, so normally by the time you've got the skin off, there's like a somewhat of a harder layer around the outside of the meat, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. After that first cut, you can kind of peel it back a little bit and you can pull that top layer of selvage off. Yeah. And when you pull it off the back strap, you can see the meat underneath it and you can kind of see where it stops on the top of the ribs. So what I do, I start at the back where the pelvis is and you can kind of see like the line of where it stops. So just put your knife underneath it and just run it straight on top of the ribs is the best way I do it. Holding one end with one hand, even if you put like a hole in it and put your finger inside it. So you know you're not going to cut your finger because you're going to be more careful. But, yeah, just run it flat. So go hard against the ridge of the spine, then scoop it out kind of. Yeah. And then run it down all the way. And I take it to pretty much where your shoulder blades are because everything further than that's all kind of tough and shitty meat. Mm-hmm. What I'll just knock off with a handsaw if I'm brought it back home, or I'll bone it out fairly roughly for dog meat. Yeah. Or mince. But, yeah.
And so sorry, go on.
Then after that, really just roll it over. So you've got all the exposed meat off the outside, roll it over and pull off your tenderloins. Yeah. So tenderloins are fairly simple. You'll see them on the inside, underneath each side of the spine. The way I do it, I just mark either side of the spine. Yeah. Then what you kind of do, you can put your thumb underneath it, and then you can just literally roll them out. Yeah. Sometimes they won't come, so you just cut a little bit more, but usually you can pull them clean off. Unless it's like a buffalo or a scrub bull, but most deer you can just pull them straight out. I've found with everything I've shot. But, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And are you one for taking ribs, or you're leaving the ribs?
I only really take them for dog meat. Yeah. But most of the time, if I'm taking them, I'll have it at the house already. So I usually just hang the whole body up and skin it and butcher it that way. Yep. Usually I'll just get a handsaw and cut them straight through, then cut them into smaller chunks for the dog. With deer and goats and stuff, there's just bugger all meat on them. So personally, I don't really take them. Yep. But, yeah, they're not too bad. I want to get like a nice pig, really. Yeah. at the moment where I am around Tamworth, it's a shock and drought, so pigs are eating a lot of meat.
Yeah.
So when you get one on crops or something, I kind of want to take the whole. So imagine if it's like bacon. So take your whole, cut from your inside there where your belly is, take all the belly meat off, so the top part of your ribs, and I want to smoke it and cure it and roll it.
Yeah.
And then have it so it's pretty much like wild bacon. But
yeah, wow.
yeah, I'll eventually get to it. But unfortunately, a lot of the pigs are kind of in a lot of bad condition, so there's not much fat, not much meat on the ribs.
Just carrying a bit of disease with the extra meat they're eating, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, that's...
I did it with my goats. What I did is I pretty much like almost did it as if I was going to tomahawk the rib cage. So I kept the back strap just on the rib cage on, and got I actually used my knife. It was terrible. I used my knife and just pretty much chopped away at it because I didn't have a hatchet to use or anything. And so I knocked off the ribs, and then I kept the ribs as one whole piece with that meat attached to it, and then I slow cooked that and used that, and that actually worked a treat. It was quite nice.
Nice.
And the ribs just fall out. So you do get a little bit of extra meat, but like you said, there's not a whole heap there. It's definitely fidgety unless you're going to take the whole thing and do something with it. There's a lot of work that could go into it for not much return. What about neck meat? Is that something you're going to take? You take the roast at all?
Only really for dog meat. The same. It's kind of, if I'm in the way out backpacking or something like that, I don't usually deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I've got it at home, I usually just cut it off in a couple of chunks with a handsaw and use it for dog meat. Or you can kind of take the whole thing off and cook it in a slow cooker.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll either use it for pie meat or something like that. But yeah.
Dude, that was what I used. That was what I cooked first on the goats. And I wasn't sure how they were going to taste, and they were beautiful. I love the neck meat. It was awesome.
Neck meat is really underrated, but it's just one of them little knack things you got to kind of bugger around with a bit.
Yeah. When it comes to using your handsaw, what handsaw are you using? Does it matter?
I go to Bunnings and buy the cheapest one I can find.
Like a wood saw or a metal saw?
Just like your normal wood saw. That's all I use. I mean, I've got a few meat saws at home, but usually the closest thing I can find is a wood saw. And yeah, when it comes to home, I'm kind of a bit shonky. I'm not going to go out and brag I'm the best butcher around, but yeah, I'm just a shonky bastard.
So when it comes to deboning, how do you go about that? So, I mean, obviously you can debone differently for each part of the meat, but how's that kind of work? What's the best way to do it?
Pretty much it's different for each part of the body you're going to do, really, but your back legs, if you've got it whole, the best way to do it, you can kind of see where your ball socket is.
Yep.
And then what you can do, you can see where where the kneecap is pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like your outside bit, what you can kind of tell, and then you can tell there's the inside bit. So on the inside, there's your top side.
Yep.
And that's kind of on one side of the bone. You can kind of, the best way I can describe it is you put your knife in against the bone where the little socket is.
Uh-huh.
The little round part is the best way I can describe it. And you can kind of feel that bone real hard.
Mm-hmm.
So you run hard against that bone and you'll come out. It kind of curves on like a edge of a oval kind of shape. Run your knife hard against that and you'll come out where the actual kneecap, on the bottom side of the kneecap.
Yep.
Then pretty much use the tip of your knife and just go all the way around that bone, slowly cutting the meat away from the bone. And that's probably the easiest way I can describe it.
Yeah, okay.
If you cut the shank end, if you're going to bone out your shank, that's a bit more complex kind of, but really you can see where the bone is. Just use the tip of your knife and just cut the meat away from the bone, really.
Mm-hmm.
Just go hard against the bone the whole time and you shouldn't have any dramas.
Yeah.
Then with the rear leg, it kind of goes into there's 4 different primal cuts. So there's the top side, silver side, your round, and then your rump.
Yeah.
So if you want to get more technical, you can kind of, it's hard to describe unless you've seen it, but there's little seams of...
you literally can just peel it apart just about.
Yeah, pretty much. Just put the tip of your knife in there. You can cut the little seams and then just pulling it out with your hand against the meat, hold the meat, pull it and cut it. You can just separate them that way, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a bit hard to describe, but there's just little seams that you can just find. You can usually see them when you've boned it out that way. Then, yeah, just take it off that way. I just cut it square off where that little ball joint is. And then that comes off freely because there's not much attached to it. And then, just go hard against the bone. You can take the rest off.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm quite into anatomy, and it was awesome to see it on like a red deer when I first tried to butcher a back leg of a red deer. Yeah, that's really quite fascinating.
Yeah.
It's it literally, like you said, just it falls apart. But then I was lost as to what everything was. I wasn't really sure once I'd pulled it apart. Like it's looking at it in a different way. All of a sudden, you're trying to puzzle it back together. What is this part? What is that part? I ended up pretty much making steaks and roasts and mince out of it all anyway.
So pretty much like there's the round. So that's like the top side of the leg.
Mm-hmm.
Well, pretty much it comes down from the where it like kind of curves on the front side of the leg, I guess is the best way you can put it.
Yeah.
It's quite round, and then if you take it flat off the bone, the kneecap usually comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the round. Then the silver side's kind of got like a round side to it. So that runs like parallel. Then there's like a flat side. Then it's got, as the name says, a silver side. It's got a big long streak of connective tissue.
Yeah.
So sinewy crap. And that's how you determine that one. Then it's just like your top side's a big, fat, really steak, I get, or big hunk of meat what comes off the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, hard to describe them all, I guess, and how they look. But the best way I can tell someone is if you can go on YouTube and watch someone cut up like a back leg of beef or something like that. I think that's probably the easiest way for a lot of people to learn nowadays.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of content out there anyway, so that helps a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's pretty much how I went ahead and butchered it without ever having butchered it before. Same for skinning. Like, that's what I did. I watched plenty of videos on how to skin and how to gut and do that side of things. And it actually helps, like, it works a treat, really. And the more you can watch, it's almost like practicing more and more and more. You can almost visualize doing it. So when you actually get to doing it, you find it quite easy. Or, it's not as daunting a task.
Yeah. Yeah, so just with anything, you just keep working at it, and eventually you get better anyway. Yeah. So that's really, same with shooting your bow. The more you shoot it, the better and more confident you become, really. So that's the best advice I can give. Same with hunting, just persistence, and just keep trying it, and eventually you'll start to accumulate a few more skills and get a bit better.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's cool, man. I think that's going to give some good insights to some people. I want to spin back around and go back onto the hunting topic. You've done a fair few of the deer. How many of the Australian deer have you done?
I've got 5 out of the 6 species.
What's missing?
I don't have a sambar, and they haunt my dreams. They're an animal that I have so much respect for and everything, and I've hunted them once or twice, I think, but I've stalked a stag, and he went through a tiny little tunnel underneath me nose through the blackberries and didn't make a single sound.
Wow.
And it's an animal, he ended up getting shot and was 30 inches long, just an animal that size. It's the 3rd largest deer in the world. Yeah. And they can just vanish like a ghost. I can't get it out of my mind. And, I've just got so much respect for that animal. They just, I can't put it into words. They're just a majestic and awesome animal. But the thing I love about deer hunting, and I kind of got a goal to try and get them all and that sort of stuff, is just the feeling of wanting to throw your bow in a river. And I've had many, many, many tantrums like a little girl over them. But when you finally pays off, it's just so rewarding. Like, I had a few people teach me as a young bloke, and it took me 7 years before I shot my first deer.
That's awesome. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it just persistence pays off. But I'm fortunate enough to have a few people around me now and help out a few people. And since I've done a lot, or not a lot, but I've done a bit of it, it just kind of, you just accumulate the knowledge, and that helps in the long run, really. But
was a fallow your first one because they're around you?
Yeah, so I shot one out when we were goat hunting one day and shot a young doe, and then I was chasing one stag for about 4 years, and he's died of old age now. I haven't found him yet, but I enjoy seeing them every day, so I don't really hunt them too hard around home, but it just got to the point where I kept passing them like bugger, I'll just shoot one. So I done that, and then one day I was calling foxes, and a young stag come in. And, yeah, I ended up collecting him and got all the meat off him and stuff. But, yeah, since then I just haven't seen one that really – I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely shoot that because in my mind, if I have a single doubt about shooting an animal, I won't take it.
Yeah.
So I don't know about other people, but if I've got any doubt in my mind, I just don't take the shot, whether it's a young animal or so on or so forth. But, yeah.
There you
But
go.
that's I do it.
And so you've travelled quite a lot because of it. Whereabouts have you been to get your different deer?
So I've hunted in Victoria in the high country, down on the coastal area for hog deer. I've hunted on a small island called Bullpool Island for hog deer, and that's actually where I got mine.
Yeah.
That was actually an awesome experience, getting a boat, jumping in my mate's boat, going out to their small block on this island. And funny enough, for me with hunts, it's not so much about the animals I take, it's about the experience to get the animals.
Yeah, definitely.
And the thing that stuck with me the most is when I jumped off the boat onto the ground, the whole area was covered in succulents, just as far as the eye could see, and that stuck with me ever since.
Yeah.
And so that was a hog deer. Then I've hunted fallow deer in most of northern New South Wales. So I'm in Tamworth and up towards Inverell way and up towards there and a little bit south of here I've hunted them. And I've gone into... with Carlo for red deer. Mm-hmm. He's in South Queensland near Kilcoy sort of an area.
Yeah, yeah.
Glenn Carlson, I think his actual name is. Everyone just calls him Carlo. But, yeah, so I've hunted with him and I'm going back this coming Raw.
Awesome.
Met a few mates there flying in from all over the country, just more of a thing to get up and catch up with mates. And then I've gone up. So I've hunted, I don't know, probably 4 hours away from Charters Towers, up there for chittle deer. I've done that in January. That's a crazy, crazy hunt. They're a crazy animal to try and get anyway, and they definitely test you.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I've hunted up there, and then recently I come back from the Northern Territory about 2 months ago. We hunted in South Arnhem Land for buffalo and pigs and scrub bulls and stuff. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Different country, or is it much the same?
You can hunt them all in the same country up there, but it was completely different to anywhere I've ever hunted before, and it's such a spiritual place. It's like nowhere I've ever been. It was honestly amazing. But, yeah, just completely different to anywhere else I've ever been. And, yeah, it's for me, I know a lot of Indigenous people don't like going there and they don't like staying there for one reason or another, just throughout their culture and stuff. But for me, it just felt like you're in your mother's arms as an infant again. Just there's this warmth of just belonging.
Yeah.
Just hard to put into words. But, yeah, it was an amazing, amazing place.
Yeah, that's cool.
Can't wait.
How'd you get up there, actually? How'd you get into going up?
So I fly Tamworth to Sydney, then Sydney to Darwin.
Yeah.
And then I've got a cousin up there, luckily, so I stayed with her for about a week, annoyed her and all her roommates. But stayed up there and then hung in the city for a while, for a few days and all that. And then I had two mates flying up from Victoria. So they flew in Darwin. I met them at the airport. And then Russ, he runs a self-guided sambar hunt down in Victoria.
Uh-huh.
Got amazing numbers down there. And he runs fairly reasonably priced buffalo hunts. So since there was enough of us and he was in town, he picked us up and we drove down from there pretty much.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it was just an awesome hunt. Yeah.
He had all the connections, obviously, to get you in there.
Yeah, pretty much. So he knew all the people who run the property and the station and all that, and they've kind of worked out a deal. So where we were, we stayed in the station in a couple of spare rooms and just drove out from there. Like, we were on a large cattle station, so just to put it in proportion, one of the smaller paddocks was 165 square kilometres.
Jesus. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, big country. But, yeah, just an amazing, amazing experience, and hopefully we'll go up there again. But, yeah, I shot a huge old buffalo bull, and like I said, I was expecting to shoot a cow.
Yeah.
Because it was just an awesome experience. But, yeah, good things come to those who wait, really. And, yeah, so I'm chuffed, really, and don't really need another one, and I don't feel like killing another one. So, yeah, just see what happens.
What did you guys do with it? Did you give it back to the people of the land up there, or?
Not really, up there. So we weren't on actual like tribal land. We were on just
private property.
stuff. Yeah. So what they do, they actually use it for bait for pigs and all that.
Yeah, wow.
We done that, and one of them was a shot. He took the cape off it and all that, and the two other boys had a bit of a bad run and didn't put perfect shots in. Had to get put down with a rifle, unfortunately for them. But yeah, with mine it was one arrow killed, but yeah, it's just one of them things, I guess. Nerves come up a lot when you're hunting dangerous game.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when they're that close to them, right?
Yeah.
What about your rooster? Where'd you get him?
I actually got that a bit south of where I am.
Okay.
So that wasn't too far away. I shot that when I was 15, I think.
You look young, yeah.
Yeah, I was a little chubby prick back then. Up losing 27 kilos to get fit to walk through the hills. But
yeah, wow.
He was an ancient old thing.
Yeah.
But I shot him and it got dark and we left him overnight. And we come back the next morning, couldn't find it anywhere. We gave up and started walking back to the house, and there he was floating in the river. Oh, not the river, in the dam. So in the middle of winter, it was freezing cold down where I was, and yeah, I had to wade into the river and get him. But yeah,
he's got some character.
Yeah, he was an ancient old thing. Unfortunately, he was rotten. We put him in the sausages, and you can still taste the tainted meat through the sausage. But yeah, it was a pretty cool experience. I always wanted a rooster, but I kind of want to go up north and hunt them up there because where I was, they were kind of introduced.
Yeah.
And they're not. Yeah, I'd rather go up Cape York and hunt a Moluccan one.
Does he have a broken tine, that guy?
No, so he actually had an extra one down on one of his sides and just massive bases.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, he was just a crazy old stag. He's actually down at the tattoo shop in Tamworth here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, have a look at him, but yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so he's just, cool animal, but yeah. Try and go up north maybe next year with a mate from South Australia, but see what happens. Really.
No, that's awesome, man. So, I mean, you talked about having yourself a little bit of a mentor to start off with. What were maybe some of like the biggest pieces of advice you had from him to start?
Really, I've learned a lot from a lot of people. The few key things is persistence.
Yeah.
Just constantly being out there, and even if you're not getting in there, just sitting on the side of a hill and watching them and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Doing that, or one thing that I think new archers overlook a fair bit is you need to make sure your broadheads are razor sharp. That's one thing that will lose animals in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
Not having too high expectations either, really.
Yeah.
Just if you're going out, if you see animals, you'd be happy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go out and see if you can achieve and expect to achieve everything overnight. Like I said, it took me 7 years to shoot my first deer. And I just had a drive and a passion for it. And fortunately for me, it worked out. And I ended up getting through it. But just that drive you need to have, and you have to be uncomfortable and you have to do all that sort of stuff. Like when I was in Victoria, I was underpacked to the shit house. I had no warm clothes. It was -3, but thank God for Benny Chambers. He lent me spare thermals, but yet I was so cold. And it's just the best way to learn is you learn through your mistakes. And like life, there's so many ups and downs, but you got to learn from your downs, and you got to kind of work through them, really. And I think hunting's like a perfect metaphor for life. You have such highs and such lows, but really the lows are all worth it when you get that high, when you get an animal, no matter if it's a trophy or not. Because really, if you shoot it, it's a trophy no matter what, especially with a bow.
Yeah, definitely, dude. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely an optimist when I come out into the property. And then when I'm walking, I'm like, you know what, over this next ridge, there could be an animal. And it's definitely what kind of keeps me out there for hours on end. Like, I think some people would definitely give up just based on they don't want to walk that far, or I'm just not seeing game today, so they mustn't be about. But yeah, it's definitely something that just keeps me going when I'm out and about.
Me and my mate Kimball, we're kind of we're a bit rough hunters, and it's just more so about we're like, what's over the next ridge? What's over the next ridge? And just keep going and going and going, really. And it's just the unknown's the thing that drives me. And it's like you can sit on the side of a hill and glass and stuff like that, and all of a sudden you'll have a goat pop out, or you'll just stumble across a mob or something like that. And that's kind of the things that drives me.
Yeah.
And it's easy thing to do by any means, to go out into the extremes. But, yeah, it's a thing that I love.
I love it when you've almost given up hope and then they just pop up. You're like, oh, thank God. Like, yes.
Yeah, it's hard to explain to someone who doesn't hunt. Like, I read in the Urban Dictionary the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And really, as hunters, we're all insane because we're going out and doing the same thing over and over again in the hopes of an animal.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and, I don't know what else I'd say to it. And the other thing too, make sure your bow's tuned. That's probably a big thing. As soon as you put broadheads on, your arrows are buggered, pretty much in a nutshell. So that's one of the things I can say to younger bow hunters or people getting into it. Even just going to a shop and they can help you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's probably some things I'd say to them. But, yeah.
No, that's cool, man. Well, I mean, people can follow along on Instagram at Darcy Galliano. It's Galliano.
Yeah,
is there
same as the
what was that?
Same as the alcohol.
Yeah, there you go. Anything else you want to leave them with, Darcy?
I don't know. Really, just persistence pays off. And if I've chased my dreams, and I'm only 20, I've done a fair bit. So really, anyone else can do it as long as you got that passion, that drive.
Dude, do you know what the youngest person is to do the 6 in Australia?
I don't have a clue, but at the moment, I'm trying to be the youngest bloke in ABA to do it, get all 8 species. So that's kind of the goal that's driving me.
Okay, and is it the Pacific 12? Is that the next? Like that's and everything south essentially we can get.
I think so. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how it falls.
Yeah, something like that, and then all New Zealand as well. But
so I think that takes into account. I don't know. Casey McCullum's done it. I'm pretty sure.
That's all your deer over there, all your tar chamois and all that, and then everything in the struck.
Okay.
But I'm in 2 minds. I'm in love with Australia at the moment. I'm just going to keep pursuing it. So I've got a few hunts lined up for next year already, so that should be all right.
Dude, that's exciting. That's really cool. All right, man. Well, we'll leave it there, but thank you very much for joining me.
All right, thank you, mate.
Appreciate it.
All right, have a good one.
That's it, guys. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Becoming a Bow Hunter. You guys can follow along with the journey at becomingabowhunter.podcast on Instagram and Facebook. You can also head across to the YouTube channel, which is Becoming a Bow Hunter. So guys, follow along. We've got a whole heap of different recipe videos up there, as well as different snippets from along the way, along the journey so far. If you guys do enjoy the show, please pass it around. If you got something out of this show, then I'm sure another bow hunter, another friend of yours would get a hell of a lot out of it as well. So please share the love, share the podcast, and thank you so much for tuning in.